F3 cross training here. I wanted to do a discussion, again, trying to be as short as possible on these. I'm hitting about 5 minutes on most of them, but I want to make this short and sweet. I get asked questions a lot about the program, about our program, and of course, you know, I'm not going to give away my program, obviously, but I will break down some of the basics of how we kind of organize our program. We do a couple different ways that we break it down. First of all, we'll just simply leave it at weight, or you can call it load-bearing work, right? Then we try to focus on functionality. All right, and then I try to focus on proprioception. Now, not everybody knows what the term proprioception is. They might have heard it, but they don't really know what it is. This is for all you trainers out there that tell your clients that you're training them for balance. All right, there's no such thing. It's physically impossible to train somebody for balance. Now, why is that? Go look up the definition of balance. Balance is actually an inner ear equilibrium issue. All right, it's got nothing to do. You're not adding or taking away fluid from the inner ear of your client. All right, now I know some of the trainers are like, hey man, I know what proprioception is. I just tell my client balance because they don't understand it. That's fine, but I look at it like every single client that I have, I want to train them to be smarter than the average trainer. And that's why I force them to learn the word proprioception. So now they get to say, hey, I know the word proprioception. You don't have to tell me balance. I know what you're talking about. Now, proprioception, the basic definition of proprioception is recognizing where your limbs are spatially. Now, what would be a good example of proprioception? A sobriety test. That would be a perfect example, right? Sobriety test is a proprioception test, right? Now, so if you want to consider this to be balance, go ahead. But this is how we work on it. Now, progression, right? This is our progression throughout our actual workout, single workout, right? So if this is our, for you CrossFit people, WOD, all right, workout of the day for everybody who's not CrossFit, all right, we want to incorporate a weight first, then our functionality, then our proprioception. Now, why do we want to do that? The weight and load bearing, that's the most loss in glycogen, first of all right, and that's where we're looking at trying to create the most amount of adaptation, right? So, if I was going to be working on, let's say, a tightrope, I might want to focus a little bit more on proprioception, maybe even bringing it up here. But still, you need those muscles to actually be able to hold yourself on that particular balance beam. Well, in general, most people, we're not looking at doing a balance beam, but we are looking at actually incorporating to strengthen up, to create more strength, more power, more endurance, maybe even a little bit of hypertrophy. But in general, just to basically do axial skeleton exercises to incorporate that we're actually able to hold our skeletal system better and actually to be able to do things outdoors, in particular for F3, right? Now, the functionality aspect. Functionality can be also, you can consider that to be in the proprioception realm too. Functionality just means things most of the time where you're incorporating a lot more movement into the body. It might even be considered sometimes calisthenics. Now, functionality doesn't just stop with calisthenics. It can be any form of like dynamic stretching, knee highs, butt kicks, karaokas, lateral slide, long stride, reverse long strides. Any one of those. It can be incorporating like an arm wheel. It can be incorporating even burpees for that matter, right? But those things, again, not as much load bearing, right? Now, this doesn't entail any type of plyometrics, which is anything jumping, bounding, leaping, hopping, or for anybody watching this that's European, stretch shortening cycle, all right, which is the same thing as proprioception for all these Americans. Like I says, I use. All right, so this is basically our organization of, and we break it down even more than that, and we get a little bit more detailed, but this is basically how we break it down. So we'll incorporate like an Olympic lift first, then we'll incorporate some form of functionality work, maybe even some really difficult versions of burpees, and I'm just using burpees because most people know what burpees are, but we've got a ton of different exercises that we can use. And then the proprioception shortens down into things that we might incorporate a little bit more of where you're having to recognize where your limbs are spatially. So for those other people that use it as balance, go ahead, use it as balance if you need to. Anyway, thanks for watching.